I can't see my bitrate now, but I'm just gonna pretend like that's good to go. So we're just gonna kind of play through and see what ends up happening with all that. And any issues that we run into? Well, obviously, immediately this door. Issue number 1. I was testing some other stuff to do with this door, so that's why it isn't in the right place. That's a bit better. I think we did a couple of weeks ago, like 2-3 weeks ago, we did something similar. Also, I want to change this. Hold on, we'll get there, I promise you. Okay, now it's actually on my headphones. There we go. Thank you. That's what I wanted to have. There we go. Alrighty. So, let's actually get started here, shall we? I fixed a bunch of minor bugs before, like being able to mesh through this while the level screen name is still up. That wasn't possible before. Okay, that might actually be something that we take a look at today as well. Is the way these recipes work now is kind of fucked. That also happens sometimes. Tutorial next button can get unfocused, and I don't know why. Sometimes it does though. So yeah, the issue being these recipes are really counterintuitive with how they work, because you pick them up and they are a usable item. Technically, you can see blue border. But in order to like learn the recipe, you need to like actually equip it and then use it, and it's just like, oh, man, that sucks. So I probably need to do something. I don't know what exactly. Either just something where you automatically like use it whenever you like add it to your inventory, but that might also be a little counterintuitive. So what I'm thinking is maybe when we're like crafting stuff, we add like a crafting like a recipe inventory as well, where we can just move recipes from our inventory into that recipe like book, right? And we can even just do the same thing that we do with chest, make that like a one-click type of deal. And then the recipe book will... You know, I don't know. I don't really know how we're going to fix that. There's a bunch of ways to do it, and all of them kind of seem clunky. So I do think just whenever I like come across one of those items in a chest, like whenever I like... if anybody's got any ideas as to how to make those recipe items like just work a little bit more smoothly, like not from a technical perspective. From a technical perspective, they're fine. But from a just like game flow perspective, when you like get an item recipe, because I want to be able to put those recipes in chests, right? How can I make it so that it's kind of like smooth to learn those recipes, but also that the player is still like actively aware that they learn a new recipe? Because that's kind of the thing where I'm like, if I just have them moved over to the inventory and then just like disappear because you learned the recipe, that's gonna be confusing as well. Like, I don't want to do that. But the way that it works now is adding it to the inventory and then needing to like actually use it is fucking insanity, right? Like, this is not a good way of doing things. Like, fucking look at this, right? We need to, like, equip this, and then equip that, and then hold down the right trigger, and then use both of them, and now I've learned the recipes. That's insanity. I just don't know... I just don't know how we're gonna, like, change that, necessarily. Also, I do think that I do have a recipe. Oh, there's also another bug that menu navigation doesn't work after closing first time. Checkpoint menu. That might be somewhat easy to fix, but the issue being is that there's supposed to be like navigation with the shoulder buttons, and now it actually crashes the game, it seems like. Maybe. I mean, if it crashes the game, that's going to give me some information as to what might be going on. So that might be good. Okay, no, it just stalled there for no reason. So yeah, this menu, when you press the like R1, L1 buttons, it's supposed to like navigate between these automatically, and it does do that the first time you open it. Then if you close it and reopen it again, it seems like it doesn't do that. So it's probably just like some kind of input getting bound on initialization and not on constructs. I would imagine something along those lines, but I don't know. Anyway. Generally, the game's also just a little too easy and mindless. Like, it is supposed to be a hack and slash, so you're supposed to, like, not... It's not supposed to be a Souls-like, right? So you're not supposed to be, like, super punished, but it also, at this point, I think, just... Could do with requiring ever so slightly more brain power. Not that much, but just a little more. But I also kind of feel like... Well, we have this. I also kind of feel like... At some point it was too difficult, and then I made it easier, and now it's too easy. And... Oh yeah, death animation can retrigger. I also need to fix that. And like, there's got to be a point, right, where I have to imagine that there's always going to be people finding it either too difficult or too easy. And having some sort of difficulty setting might help with that, but like, you can't make a difficulty setting that's good for everybody. So I'm going to have to, at one point or another, and that point should be sooner rather than later, I'm going to have to commit to a choice in difficulty. And it needs to be, I think, higher than it is now, lower than it used to be. But then when people still do come back with, yeah, hey, I found it too difficult, like at some point, like, it might just not be the game for you. Or finding it too easy, right? Like, that also just needs to be okay, I guess. So yeah, retriggerable death animations. Fix that. That should be pretty easy to fix. I think I have everything in place to fix that. I just haven't like implemented those things yet. And I think those quick time events to like instant kill were a nice idea, and I need to implement some more quick time events just in general. I think. In response to like those, for instance, in response to that, right? Maybe when we have like a flying dude fire at you, that should be like a quick time event. But I think having these like instant kill quick time events based on like when they're close to death anyway, and then they give you more experience as a result, I believe, as well. It's it's just kind of clunky. From what I've seen with a handful of people that I've like in person playtested this with so far, none of them even pick up on the fact that those things like do anything, which is fucking insane because it's like over top of them. But I also just don't like personally love it very much. I think it's not that good. I also just realized that I didn't even use any of my fire spells there. So yeah, that's maybe because I haven't crafted it yet, but I can, so I should. So go to the inventory, put this on there. Now this in general just needs more work, like obviously. It's also, this is too difficult. This straight up is too difficult. Specifically the beginning portions of this. Just straight up like too difficult. Like, I'm pretty good at it at this point. There's also a little bit of luck involved with the spawn locations. Well, not spawn locations, but how they move before I get there. But practice, in practice, it's been proven that like that is just like too easy as well. A lot of these things need to only start firing when the person, like when the player gets close as well. Because you just get through a lot of the like auto-firing things fairly easily, which obviously isn't that good. You see, I say it's too difficult, but now I'm just kind of like blazing through this as well. So, I don't know, is it too difficult? I kind of feel like it might not be. Because part of the reason that I felt it was too difficult to begin with is because I personally ended up dying a lot in this area. And if I'm dying a lot in this area, that is probably a bad thing. But I'm doing like decently well now. So like maybe... Did I already change the damage output or the like HP that the player has after like the last time I tested this? Because this seems like pretty doable and pretty decent. For sure do one of these, and then do one of these. Yeah, and then this... Like, the boss fight also probably could do with having, like, at least one or two more mechanics to it. Gotta keep in mind that it is just a fun little, like, base breaker for the game. This shouldn't be that difficult. So... The fact that this is kind of easy, like, here it is okay if things are just, like, generally probably a little too easy. Because it's supposed to just be a fun little break from the game, and it's not supposed to be, like, the pinnacle of twin-stick shooterness, right? Like, in any way, shape, or form. Let me actually, now that we're not in there anymore, twin-stick, shooter, auto, fire, turrets... Shoot, fire, shoot, start from trigger boxes. Because right now they just start a begin play with a cycle, I believe, which means that they have a very good chance of just letting you through when you get there, effectively. Hello, why will you not let me jump? What the fuck? I'm moving a little bit, so I guess I can dash my way out of this. Okay, this is a bug. Ledge hanging isn't allowing me to, well, guess we're writing this down as a bug. Ledge grab not allowing jump. Possibly due to hanging from dash. That's a bug. Yeah, that definitely is a bug. At this point, I'm so perfectly aligned that I can't like get out of it either. Let me try to see if I can finagle something a little bit here. I don't think so. Try and repeat. Yeah, I'll do that in a moment. But first I need to like get out of this, which I guess we're not doing. It's a little annoying. Do I have any save files? I guess we'll just redo some stuff in a moment. Yeah, let me try to see if it's actually to do with the dash, because I think I know what's causing it. I think the issue is if I ledge grab directly from like this dash ability, like if the dash ability causes me to ledge grab, the dash ability like get cancelled and doesn't ever like set my like allowance to jump back to being true. I think that's probably the issue. I'm just gonna try to see if ledge grab in general is broken. In general it's broken. Okay. Why? Hold on. This is actually a thing that I'm going to immediately look at, because that's not okay. That's a big issue. Check ledge grab. This is on tick. So yeah, ledge grab. That's stuff and things. It's in the jump function. If we're hanging off the ledge, oh, I think I know what the issue is. Nothing to do with this, I don't think. I think what's happening is this can jump, right? We have magic menu open with this allow jumping. My jumping code, like my code around is in general is like spaghettified as hell. But this allow jumping is just false, and that gets set to false because I don't know why. So yeah, the issue is that this returns false. So none of this is even like done at all, which is due to this. So we check if the magic menu is open. If magic menu is open, I guess we can just put a breakpoint there and see what actually is like happening with the values there. I'm gonna... That's fair enough. Don't jump. It checked the allow jump like 3 different times here. That's also... I don't know why it would do that. So yeah, this is gonna take a moment to get to the point where we can check this, but I think it's probably like that variable doing something weird, and let me just real quick. Saves me going through that room every single time I have to reset. Matter of fact, it might actually be good to just put something like less grabbable in that other room at the moment. Can you please just let me... Oh, that's kind of annoying. So I guess we disable this for the moment, and then we grab onto this, and now we go back in and re-enable that. Okay, so when I try to jump now, there we go. Should have created a playroom, test room. I have a test room. If it comes down to it, I'll switch back over to it, but it's annoying to like switch levels for something relatively simple. Oh, magic menu is false. Allowed jump is false. Why is allowed jump false? I guess allowed jumping is false because I haven't reached the ground again. Yeah, so that makes sense. So what happens is when I jump, it like takes, I think, 0.2 seconds for this to go to false. Basic coyote time shit. But then this only resets when my movement mode goes back to being walking. Which obviously when I grab onto something, my movement mode doesn't go back to being walking. So what I actually need to do is I need to just get hanging and just or boolean this. So when I'm hanging, it also allows me to jump. And that'll fix it. If that doesn't fix it, I will go over to a test level, maybe, to figure out what the hell's going wrong. But this should... yeah, there we go. Okay, that fixes that. Okay, fantastic. So, we can move on, except that I don't have... like any of the keys at this point, I don't think so. I need to redo all of those things. Yeah, just straight up I do, I think. We'll see in a moment. Maybe this save file happens to have those other two keys, just as a coincidence. It certainly has one of them. Yeah, that's the one I just picked up. No shit. Well, I guess we go back and just do the twin stick shooter thing again real quick. And then the normal combat. Yeah, most of the things we're running into here seem like fairly small issues luckily so far. But it's just like there's a lot of them that just keep popping up over and over and over again. Let me actually mark that issue that I just wrote down like immediately as being resolved, because that was a pretty easy one. Okay, so here we are back again doing this. I guess it's good testing to have to redo this again, because it felt like it was a little easier than I remember it being. I think I should just have some invincibility frames. I think that fixes like 90% of the issues that I have here, because specifically this first room, what ends up happening, and the power-ups need to like actually explain what they do. Specifically this first room, the issue that I end up having is that they just all three start shooting at you. And it's very easy to get hit by like 5, 6 or 7. Yeah, damage is okay. 5, 6 or 7 bullets like almost immediately, which deals a fuck ton of damage. Same thing here, right? Once you get hit by one of those, you get hit by like at least 5 of them. Which is a little bit annoying. So probably like just invincibility frames fixes all that like straight away. Definitely HP in this case though. That said though, because I needed to pick HP that time, I'm gonna be a little less powerful going into the boss fight this time. But the boss fight still, it's very easy. It just needs to have something more to it, I think. It's an issue for a later date. For now, I don't really think it's that big a deal. Can you block bullets? Like maybe there would be something to having like bullet collision, like bullet on bullet collision. I guess if I shoot bullets with my bullets, that negates both of them. But I don't know if that's going to. It's worth giving that a shot. At some point, I specifically set them to ignore each other, so I feel like I tested that out and it felt annoying, but I don't remember. So it's worth giving that another shot at some point, but not like super priority right now. Yeah, specifically for like this right here, probably would be kind of annoying, to be honest. Also, that sound file doesn't loop. Why not? Yeah, you can see that this just is a little tedious when I don't have enough damage upgrades. I'll fully read the message in chat in a moment. Okay, we're good. I want to ask for spawning projectiles from weapons. When bullet is shot, it will always appear ahead of where spawn is visually. I don't really understand what you mean. So you mean like in this, that they spawn ahead of the cannons? They do a little bit, yeah. That's adjustable though. If I really care, but I don't, to be honest. Not right now anyway, because those models are all like pretty temporary anyway, so there's no real use in fine-tuning that shit for stuff that I'm gonna replace anyway. When I actually have a proper like spaceship type like model, it'll probably be a little bit more fine-tuned. This is a mobile game, definitely not. No, this is this will probably end up like kind of melting your phone, to be honest. Because I'm in no way like optimizing this for mobile. And even like playing it on the Steam Deck. Steam Deck has like it will run it. But it will have a little difficulty in some areas, for sure. So, yeah, no, I don't think your average phone is gonna like run this very well. Maybe like a super top of the line, like current gen new phone would outperform a Steam Deck, but that's about it. Oh, for my project, it's not a game break, but when I spawn a bullet, like an arrow. Depending on the speed of the projectile, you visually see it ahead of the spawn location. Yeah, you just probably need to offset the spawn location, because what ends up happening is it actually does probably spawn at that spawn location, but because it is already moving when you spawn it, within the first couple of frames it's already moving, so it seems like it spawns ahead of where it actually spawns. So if you're running into that issue, you probably just need to like offset the actual spawn location a little bit more back, because it's kind of a like a visual trick to where it seems like it spawns ahead, but it actually is just like spawning in the right position most likely, and just like moving already. So by the time you realize something has spawned, like by the time your brain's like caught onto that, it's already moved into like a different position. That's likely what's happening. Might be something else though, I don't know, but if I had to guess, I'd put my money on that. Might also be that your arrow just has like collision for the mesh itself, and that is causing it to find a different spawn location for it, because it's actually overlapping with whatever you're trying to, like, where you're trying to spawn it. Because when you try to spawn an actor in Unreal, it can have like different types of collision handling, and I think by default what it tries to do is it tries to spawn the actor with its collision in the specified location, but if it can't do that, it will try to spawn it as close as possible, essentially, but without it overlapping with other collision. But that does have as a like resulting action that if you have your like static mesh with collision, it might offset it into like a weird location. So if offsetting your spawn location doesn't work, it's probably the collision overlap issue. Depending on how you have like, if you have like a mesh, you were saying, I think arrows, right? So I'm assuming you have a mesh and not just particle effects. Oh, it doesn't add my HUD back. That's hold on, that's not good. Hold on. that's boss fight cutscene doesn't add HUD back. That's not good. That's also an easy fix though. Wait, what? Oh. Boss fight pause causes skip scene menu to appear. Also an easy thing to fix. I guess we for now just press continue there. And I don't have anything equipped. Okay, so we're gonna need to be a little careful here with the boss. This boss is gonna get replaced anyway, by the way. I decided that this character will do as a like normal basic enemy in a different part of the game, and I want to have a different boss for the tutorial area, which I've been working on last week. Well, technically this week, I suppose. Boss room makes me think of Dark Souls with a bit of color. I mean, that's kind of the idea to some extent. Oh yeah, this attack. When he gets turned into a regular enemy, I'm also going to get rid of this attack, because I don't think that this attack will work well on a regular enemy. I mean, it barely works well on the boss fight. Technically, I could also skip that cutscene, I believe. That's actually a good thing to test. Can I skip this? Oh, okay. And cutscene for the boss doesn't disable player inputs. Might be very specifically an issue with this one though, now that I think about it. Because it technically does load a level in the middle of a cutscene in the background. Which all the other ones will not have to do. So that might not be a like wider existing issue, but it's still an issue that we're going to need to fix. It's also not paused now. Can I please... No, no. Can I please click the thing? Thank you. Okay. Let's open the chest. And also, oh. I think I just deleted an item, didn't I? Maybe I did, maybe I didn't, I'm not sure. Anyway, first and foremost, this. And again, the recipe learning being like equipable items that you need to like do this with is a temporary thing. I don't know how I'm gonna fix it. But it's really clunky the way it works right now. Because we have another spell over here that I need to learn now, and I need to learn it like this, and now I can craft it, and it's just kind of messed up. What item was it? Because it might have gotten merged into one of the other stacks. Was it like an item that I already had in my inventory? Because if so, it probably got merged into the other stack. I didn't pay attention. I mean, I guess I can just check what's in that chest. But let's just equip heal first and then craft a couple of spells. This spell is overpowered, so I'm not going to use it. I also didn't get a fireball spell. Oh fuck, okay. I 6-star, so it's like 6 of this one, right? Yeah, so then it just got merged into here, I think. I think. I'm not 100% sure. We're just gonna pretend like that didn't happen if it was an issue until it happens again, and then I'll be annoyed with myself forevermore. Okay, let's see what other issues we can find in this dungeon over here, because I've had like 1.5 people test this dungeon, and none of them were like paying very much attention, which was kind of annoying. Oh, before we do that, I need to remember that I also have like experience, so let's level up a little. I think I want my base damage to just be improved. I think my HP situation is probably fine for now, but yeah, just like increase this by quite a bit, and then like get 1 more mana, maybe 2 more mana. Holy shit! Okay, that that's not supposed to be that many mana. Hold on a moment. Mana level up. Way too much. Why the fuck? Why the fuck do I have so much mana? We're just gonna pretend like I have 5 for the time being, I guess. But that's not supposed to be that much, obviously. got an Infinity Stone. I mean, which Infinity Stone would that even be? I guess the blue one, like that space, right? Yeah, it's also a little easy to juggle things that are in corners. Also, these fuckers are a massive pain in the dick. Is that the max mana you can have in the game? I think it might be, yeah. So it might just be messing that up somehow, some way. I assume that's it. I mean, we'll try to like level up mana again when I get enough experience to see if I get even more ridiculous amounts of mana. I guess we just go down here. Well, actually no, because I happen to know, as the person who put this all together, that there's actually an ability over there to pick up. Certainly a strange sense of interior design. You're not wrong about that. Yeah, I think what it might have done is there's something that just goes wrong with the sampling of the level up curve. And it just, for some reason, is picking up the very end of the curve at all times when I level up. Or something? I don't know. Those shield guys are horror creatures. They're supposed to only do shields on one enemy at a time. At the moment they're bugged. Because they have a value that keeps track of the currently like shielded enemy, and they check whether or not they are currently shielding something before they try to shield something else. But apparently I'm never actually setting that value to anything, so they always think that they don't have anything that they're shielding, even though they are already shielding something. So they'll get fixed as well, which makes them a little less annoying. As far as the design goes, yes, giant spider. It's never a fun time, is it? I mean, being able to just spam like multiple thunders and just annihilate all these enemies around me is kind of fun. Like, can I hit everything around here? I kind of can't I? Well, that's all my MP gone. I don't know if this is a representative playtest anymore because of that, to be honest, but it's fun, so I'll take it. If nothing else, that just tells me that maybe leaning in a little bit more towards like allowing more magic is good. I would have them shield multiple and 5 them resistance to annoy players further. I think the amount of HP that they have already is annoying enough, to be honest, but if you want to be like truly evil about it, that is a thing that you could do. And being evil is fun, I'll give you that. Within reason. Okay, well actually now we're gonna get into a level that I just did the first block out for today, before the stream, so it's really still quite empty, as you can see. But we have some stuffs. So recipe, and then we have some of this, yeah. Then again, I also do like the idea that you do have to hold onto a recipe as like part of your inventory usage until you get to the next checkpoint as well, because that makes it take up some inventory space. So I do think in the end what we're going to end up probably doing is having a separate inventory of that can only take in recipes, like a recipe book inventory, that you can take the recipes out of your inventory and put them into that inventory when you're at a checkpoint. I think that's like the balance best of both worlds kind of situation. I think that's what we're gonna go with. It's what I'm kind of feeling right now. Also, don't mind that. That's just some leftover light baking. Yeah, they do stack. I think what happened with the other chest is just I wasn't paying attention. Which is good, because that means that my inventory stuff isn't broken. Also, there's a chest back here. Which... Yeah, you see, when I try to move this to the other inventory, when I don't have any room, it just won't let me. It doesn't actually delete them. So, that's good to know. That said, that also does mean that my inventory is getting kind of full, doesn't it? So, let me take care of that. Because we have, like, at least one recipe that I can learn, which is regen, which is pretty good, probably. Then we have some souls to absorb, and then we also, beyond that, what do we do beyond that? I guess we, like, is there anything we need to craft? I don't think so. I guess we can... It's called heal, but that's actually like regen. I don't think we need regen. But now that we are here, I want to do two different things, right? I want to use the sacrifice spell, because I actually think that it could be like super powerful in combination with like spamming thunder. I think that could be fun. And then I also, if I combine that with not warp, not delete us, not even jaws, hold on. Because we had another spell. I have an idea for a build that might be broken. And it might be a little too easy to achieve to be as broken as it might be. In order to test it, I do need to like not have this insane amount of MP though. I'm gonna need to get that fixed up in a moment. Yeah, you see, it's annoying to like unequip spells that you're using in order to learn. Chain lightning is also pretty good. It's not. I'm not learning it. Why not? Wait. My whole inventory shit is fucked up. What happened there? Okay, hold on. Let's save here real quick. And reload. Yeah, we gotta test mana upgrade as well. Yeah, you see, when I load the game, I actually have the appropriate amount of mana as well. So it's just something in the upgrade menu that probably just gives in the wrong value. Yeah, so now I'll learn it without any problem. Okay, don't know why that happened that way. I guess I can learn Chain Lightning again. It adds them as unique, so like it's not going to add it twice. I don't think, actually. Let's check. Oh, it doesn't save. It doesn't save your learned recipes. Yeah, that's quite important. Learned recipes don't get saved. That said, if we're going to go with the spell book recipe, or the crafting book recipe rather, or route or whatever, I can't even talk. That's probably not going to matter. Because we'll just have to save that inventory instead. So we don't need to save that like individual list or whatever. But yeah, let's try to again. Well, actually, before I try to upgrade my mana again, because it's gonna break, I imagine. Let's save. I'm gonna try to upgrade my mana one more time. Yeah, that just gets me the max amount of mana, I think. I think that's like 12. We'll take a look at that in a moment. But for now, we'll have just this amount of mana, I guess. Well, with the strat that I'm gonna do, I probably could do with having a bit more HP. Because the idea, if you hadn't like caught on yet, is that I have this thing that sacrifices HP for mana, and I don't know if I actually have it programmed for my new mana system yet, so it might not work. But the idea would be that I can just spam magic spells at the cost of HP. Which seems like it could be quite broken. Yeah, so right now it's doing it as a 1-to-1 conversion. Meaning that like one full HP bar that we have is 100 HP out, I think. Meaning that at the moment we have about 140 HP. And one of those segments is... yeah, let's change that up real quick before we actually test this. Because like obviously a 1-to-1 conversion is insane. HP to MP or something. Did I call it like MP heal or something like that? I don't remember what I called it. Mana heal. So yeah, the cost for this is obviously going to be significantly higher. So we get the health. This is why I didn't want to do any coding today. My brain is so fucking fogged up, it's not even funny. Yeah, it does save the... Well, it doesn't actually save your mana value. What it does is it saves your magic level. And then when you start the game, it uses that magic level to set your mana. So it saves your level correctly. It's just when you upgrade the level, something goes wrong. But then it keeps track of the level properly. So when you load in your game again, it actually sets it properly. Because it actually used the right code there. Like it's specifically the code existing in that UI element that is messed up. It's probably easy to fix. Anyway, so we have our health to mana. Like, isn't that just like dealing damage? Okay, so what we do here is we set the mana to +1, and I guess we just set this to like -10. And we check if the health, if this is lower than this, and both of those are found. We also need to check if our health is greater than 10. Because if it's not, we don't want to be able to do that. We don't want to be able to kill ourselves with it. Always need to like stick it at least 1 HP. So now it should subtract 10 HP, which still might not be enough. I did save, right? Yeah, just do a different file. So if I do this now, sacrifice will take... I think that's still not enough, but we'll see. I think we might need to go up to like 20 or 25 or something like that to make that like even slightly balanced. How much does heal actually? Because right now I think what I can do... Yeah, okay, definitely it needs to take more than heal would heal. And I think heal heals 50. Gameplay effect heal player. That makes sense. Gameplay abilities, player heal. 50. Yeah, so Yeah, I think the way that we need to do this instead is... We'll just make an equivalent exchange. I think that's fair. Just also set this to being 50. Which means that we can only use it a couple of times there. So it's probably like fine to do. Means that it's likely like not that broken, right? Because now if I do this, like it takes out a lot of HP. And this is more or less just like equivalent exchange back and forth every single time. So yeah, that's probably fine. Look, in a pinch it can give you a little bit of extra damage output, but like not an insane amount. Because I can like... Oh, and it gives me back all my MP at the moment, and it also zapped me of all my HP. I have 1 HP left now. Okay, something went like pretty horribly wrong there. Obviously. So yeah, if it attacks me now, I will be dead. Why are you not attacking me, dude? No, you were gonna attack me. Go. Okay, so maybe this guy's AI needs a little bit of work as well. Why will you not attack me? Thank you. Which also gives me a good opportunity to test out how these spawners work. Answer is... they should restart, but they don't. Because technically the level doesn't get reloaded. Okay. The sacrifice... Why? Why does it do that? Mana heal. Activate ability, do all that. Commit ability. I guess the commit ability doesn't actually like matter, right? It already has a cooldown as well. I guess the cooldown for it should also just be like up to a second. Because I feel like it's just triggering like 3 times in a row, like 3 frames just back to back to back. No. Oh, I think I know what's going on. Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. Because the level that we give in here is like minimum 50. Yeah, no, it's just, this should be level 1. Just supply that in at level 1. Okay, no, that's fixed. The one fear I have toward C++ is bugs. I can barely fix blueprints. I mean, the annoying part about bugs in C++ is that they're more likely to crash your entire engine. But also, when stuff crashes, it's a very good signal that something is a bug. But it does like it does take more time because you need to like reboot the engine like fairly often because your C++ code might be messy. But aside from that, there's not that much of a difference, luckily. Okay, that seems fair. Let's try that again, because, well, actually, before we do that, let's also upgrade my magic strength to do about 30% more damage. So what we also can do is I did like purposefully take in my like time slow ability, so I can just like while time slow is active, I can't actually do the lightning spell. That's probably something that I should fix. Also, I can't dash anymore. Time slow. Okay. Time slow breaks other abilities. Time slow breaks other abilities from being used. I always love it when a list of bugs just keeps growing. Trying to learn C++ and trying to make an engine to apply it. I mean, if you're trying to learn C++, maybe like scaling back the practice project a little bit into something manageable will be more educational in the end. But I can see why like that is a fun project. I would argue trying to make a game with it first, given a like either just within Unreal or given a existing like C++ framework, probably ends up being like more worthwhile, maybe. Ooh, I got hit there and now I'm okay. I need to probably heal in a moment. I did the wrong spell? Did I do the wrong spell? I did the time slow. Fuck. Which means that I can't do shit now. Can't even heal probably. I also think I mashed this guy out of the nav mash. Yeah, I can't even heal now. Fantastic. So I think the issue with the time slow ability is that it doesn't technically end. So it's technically still active. So I just need to add a end ability to it at some point. And there's a real issue with enemies being not aggressive enough. I don't know why that's the thing. It's probably to do with the... Fuck. It's probably to do with the like enemy like aggression system that I made at some point, which is just to say I made an array of enemies that are allowed to be aggressive toward the player. Which is messing with things, but I want to get rid of that anyway, because I feel like enemies in general should just be more aggressive than they are right now. So what I want to do instead is I want to replace it with a with an attack queue system, where enemies that want to attack add themselves to a queue, and then when they get told that they are now allowed to attack, they check whether or not they still want to attack. That way, you still prevent like 5 enemies all attacking at once, because that used to be a bit of a problem. But things can at least be like all aggressive toward you, which I think will feel better. But I need to make that. And I think as I go along, I can add it Unreal Engine itself to expose stuff. I mean, yeah, it's probably like all in like good time, right? Because if you're just learning C++, you're gonna first run into like a bunch of stuff that you can't do through a blueprint that you're gonna be super happy that you can now do. Before like actually diving into the engine source code and changing anything about that, like that's probably like a couple of steps deeper down the line. But that is a possibility that you then do have. It's just like a lot more complicated to actually do. But even just like using the engine instead of like changing the engine on a deeper level can be really quite nice and quite cool, because you can do like a lot of extra fun stuff, like making like actual like asset factories, right? I have this this inventory system that I created. First and foremost, I have these assets rendering their images in the editor as their thumbnails, which is really cool. because this is just driven by the inventory icon, right? If I change this inventory icon to this, then you'll see that it renders as that. So that kind of stuff, like, you can't do in just Blueprint. Very roundabout ways you could maybe get it working in Blueprint, but in general, you like need a C++ like thumbnail renderer for this. But also, I have just here in like inventory, I can just make a item asset, and then it gives me all the item asset subclasses that I've made, even the ones that I've made in Blueprint. It just finds all the subclasses of the C++ item class, and then it lets me make a item just from like that menu like that, right? That kind of stuff, because you're like hooking into the editor itself. It's really nice once you like start playing around with C++. I made like for my turn-based RPG, I also made like an encounter table. This is just a data table with a like predefined struct that I can just instantiate as its own like type of asset now. There's nothing like complex about this. If I show you the C++ class for it, it's actually kind of laughable because all that it is let's see, somewhere in here, it's in the header file, encounter table, right? All that it is this. It's just a data table. I'll zoom in a little bit, where I set the row struct to be my encounter data struct, and that's it. Like, I don't even have a CPP file for this. It's just a header file. But then in my editor module for this plugin, I have like a like factory for it, so that I can actually like instantiate it through like menus and that kind of stuff. Which is just really nice to be able to do all that type of stuff. And if you get like real deep into it, obviously, you can make your entire like own asset types with their own like editor like pages made in like Slate. I personally haven't like ever done that because it's never really come up. But I'm thinking that like maybe in the future, if I refine the quest system that at some point I made, or make like a more proper dialogue system, I might make like scripting pages for setting up quests and setting up dialogue. Because that seems like something that I probably at some point should learn to do. I know that it's possible, I haven't done it yet. Because I've got a million other things to do that actually like are productive toward making my game. And I don't really need any systems that need like their own dedicated like editor pages at this point in my life. So I haven't really gotten around to doing that. But it is certainly my to-do list to like look into how to do. I also could have sworn that I upgraded this at some point, but maybe not. Fuck it, let's get more mana. I think getting more mana is probably... Okay, so we're back to that. I'm gonna just like save and reload real quick to make sure that I have a like actual appropriate amount of mana for the level that I just got. Anime shader that works with sun and lumen or gas. So yeah, gameplay ability system is like a huge thing, of course. Anime shader is kind of like, I mean, what I have here is not quite an anime shader, but it is a cell shader. You're most of the way there. Anime shading in general, like if you want to create a cell shader that actually like looks like anime, at that point it's not as much in the shading anymore as it is in the super fucked up normals that your character models are gonna need to have in order to get like those anime shadows and the little highlights on like the cheeks and that kind of stuff that anime characters tend to have. If you want them to like look like that, reactive to like 3D lights, that, as far as I understand, again, I haven't done much of that, or any, to be fair. But as far as I understand, that mostly comes down to like having the normals of those areas for your model point in like super weird directions. But yeah, no, it's definitely like doable and possible. Like, there's a fair amount of like anime-esque games that have been made in Unreal at this point. Like Dragon Ball Z Kakarot is probably like if not the example of an anime-looking game that was made in Unreal. Was Kakarot already made in Unreal? Actually, I don't know. I know that Sparking Zero is made in Unreal, which obviously is a like fantastic-looking game. Holy shit, that game looks good. But it looks very anime. I think Kakarot is also Unreal Engine. Don't quote me on that though. I'm not 1000% sure on that. I got started on Kakarot at some point, and then I realized that it's like it is really an RPG. It's a grind fast and a half that game, and it's kind of brain dead in its combat, which I say while playing my brain dead combat game. But it's just the moment you unlock a version of what the Dragon Ball fandom has dubbed Vegeta's technique, which is just spamming the hell out of key blast. The moment you unlock a version of that, that's just the best thing to do in like 90% of battles in that game, and that kind of makes it a little boring. So I didn't really like get that deep into it. I got like halfway through. No, I think actually I beat like Vegeta in the Saiyan Saga. And after that, I kind of just like was like, I've kind of seen it. I'm gonna play different games, and then I started playing The Witcher, which is a much better game. But then I got bored of The Witcher and I started playing Cyberpunk, which is an even better game. And then I finished Cyberpunk, and I'm back to The Witcher. So that's what I've been working with. Yeah. There was an Unreal forum documentation that showed how to expose with C++ a material that can cell shade and affect by the sun. I'd be interested to see that. I think it probably isn't C++, because if it's... Unless you're like actively changing like the rendering pipeline side of things. If it's a shader, it's probably not C++. It's what is it called? Like HSL something something. I'm always bad with remembering abbreviations. But it might need to be able to like take in like making a cell shader that just responds to the sun isn't that difficult, because that's just a thing that you can even do like in the material graph, because you just have a light direction that responds to the directional light in your scene, assuming you have only one. Unreal generally doesn't super like it if you have more than one directional light. At least in 4 it did. I don't know if Unreal 5 changed that. I assume that it didn't. Holy shit, why do people feel the need to have like super loud exhaust pipes? But like making it respond to the sun usually isn't the issue. Usually the issue comes in making it respond to every other light in the world. The tutorial I followed for this, I didn't come up with this shader on my own. I fine-tuned it a little bit to like my own liking, obviously, but the tutorial I followed for like this cell shader that I'm using is quite nice. It mostly works entirely in the material graph as well. You do need to make like one little like custom shader node for it, because shader graph itself, the material graph, doesn't support looping, and for like the outlines, to make them kind of scale to the depth of the scene, I think it is, or to make them variable, right? To make the outline variable in thickness, which is what we end up doing with like the depth of the scene. The further down the scene it is, the thinner the lines technically are. You kind of like, you need to for loop over a handful of different like pixels to sample them. And the normal material graph doesn't support for loops, which is kind of surprising, to be honest. So I like spent an entire day across like 4 of that guy's tutorials trying to piece things together, and at the end I managed, and now I have this, and I am scared to open up the the material for it because it's been a while and I probably don't like properly understand it anymore. But I can open it up in a second just to like have a look. Yes, I went up here. This is not a way to go to the boss, but I went up here to just check if the like new area that I made, like what the scale for it is, and it actually is like pretty much the way that I would have wanted it to be. So that's kind of cool. This is going to be a Colosseum where you can like level grind and stuff and get some extra prizes. And I am seriously considering putting like a public domain version of Mickey Mouse here. That just like throws you into the Colosseum for Bloodsport. Because I think that would be funny. I think it would be really funny to have Mickey Mouse watch, or Steamboat Willie, rather, right? It's not technically Mickey Mouse, because the public domain version is Steamboat Willie. But it's Mickey Mouse, right? Let's be honest to ourselves, it is Mickey Mouse. It would be really funny to just have Mickey Mouse watch as these creatures slaughter each other for his entertainment. Did I pick up the key? I guess we'll find out. I don't remember. But for that I need to make, or get somebody to make, either or, a Steamboat Willie like 3D model that I can use. Which I'm sure that there's just one that I can like buy for like a couple bucks, right? Surely somebody's made one after it became public domain. Or even before it. And then you hear the evil Mickey laugh. Exactly! And then I hear the evil Mickey laugh in my inbox when Disney sues the hell out of me, but I don't know, fucking worth it for the bit. Can I didn't make it. This room also needs like major revision because it's just like boring. I thought having that thing just continuously shooting at you would make it stressful, but it mostly just makes it tedious and honestly like not even that stressful. So yeah, this room needs like major changes. Also, this is another one of those rooms where I'm like, what is this? In like a world building context, what is this room? Why is there a room in like the catacombs with a cannon in the middle? Like what even, how does that make sense? Right? It doesn't. That's kind of an issue that I have with this dungeon in general. Like, a lot of these are just like corridors, which is fine for the catacombs if I just add in like a couple of skulls on the walls and that kind of stuff. Like that kind of like carries itself, that's fine. But there's mostly the rooms where stuff happens, where I'm like, what even is this? Like, contextually speaking, there needs to be some context to like when something is a room, right? Okay, we've actually made it, surprisingly enough, to the first actual boss fight. Ancient people had unique interests. Yeah, I guess. Oh, and this boss fight's cutscene is very rough still, okay? Just... I made this like a week and a half ago for having something in there to playtest with a friend. So this is fairly rough. There's just like almost no animation at all. Obviously the environment also flame cannons you can turn into broken pipes of hot steam coming out. The effect makes it more environmental sense. Yeah, for the flaming things in like that platforming area that we just had. What I'm thinking is I just change the level design around a little bit to change those into like small incineration chambers that you go through, and that's going to be like the what is the place where you like cremate people called? A crematory? I'm gonna call it a crematory. Why doesn't this guy have an HP bar? Oh, because yeah, because it still doesn't do... Yeah, that makes sense. I'm gonna have a lot of hurts here in a moment. You should have an HP bar now, when I get to you. There we go, HP bar. But it's mostly like those, that other thing with like that cannon, like what is that? Like canonically speaking. There's another room that I had which had like pushers coming out of the wall all over the place, and it had like weird tunnels, and I was like, I don't know what this is. It's a video game level, sure. But now that I need to like place art assets, this boss fight is way too passive, by the way. But now that I need to like place art assets into it, at least temporary art assets, I need to start thinking about, okay, but what are these things in the context of the world? And it just didn't make sense. And that ended up like being revamped into being kind of like the King's Tomb, which means there's not that much gameplay going. What the fuck is up with your AI, dude? Hold on, I'll show the cutscene. Because we unlocked a weapon! Fantastic, okay. Let me just note down that Reaper boss doesn't like attack almost at all. Don't know what is up with that. Yeah, and also getting rid of the HUD during the boss fights is weird. But now we have a new weapon, which is fairly slow but good at like doing that round attack. What the fuck was that? Needs to be maybe a little bit better than it is right now. So that was I don't know, about 30 minutes worth of gameplay to go through the tutorial and one dungeon. So if we multiply all that by about 5 or 6, that means that the game as a whole would have like 3 hours of gameplay, which is probably not enough. But it's also going to be just like that. Why can't I dash anymore? Just like that twin stick shooter, like this area is gonna have like a whole like 10 to 15 minute like turn-based RPG segment in it, and then we'll have like a couple of minute long on-rail shooter in a different part of the game, and so on and so forth. So there'll be a little bit more padding to it. And obviously this is me also just like almost not at all dying. Which probably speeds it up, like if you die a little bit more, especially if the game does become a bit more difficult than it is right now. It probably ends up taking a little bit longer. I can't use magic anymore at all. But now that I've beaten another boss fight, the basic enemies are starting to get up there in HP. Like they are taking quite the beating before they go down. I also probably will get like a decent amount of souls out of every kill now, so I'll be able to like level up pretty quickly, I think. Yeah, that gave me like 70, I think. That gave me like 60 something. So yeah, we're getting up there as fast as we can. The moment I get to a save point, we're going to like restart the game again so that I can use magic, because it's really annoying that I can't. It's also kind of annoying to... Hold on a moment, I have an idea. I have an idea. If I can time this somewhat right... Ah. I'm gonna try to get that. Because it would be really fun if I could, like, clip myself up these walls. It's certainly possible to get there other ways, by the way, I want to point out. I'm also not getting damaged, like, nearly enough by the... Well, these things aren't damaging me yet. Oh, now they are. I don't know why I'm so, like, dedicated to getting myself up there, like, with bugs. Oh, but that's definitely possible, right? Especially if I like double damage boost. Like, get me... I'm over it. Again, it's not even like you're gonna get, like, out of bounds because you're supposed to be able to get up there. Just through a different, like, way. Because there is a door up there that you can, like, exit through. So it's not even game breaking if you get up there or anything, so it's not that big a deal. I was just wondering if you can maybe, like, skip a little bit and get to that area easier. But if you want to get, like, to that area that leads to, just taking, like, a different door at the central, like, hub location of all the dungeons just gets you there super quickly anyway. Just there's one chest up there in the middle that might be, like, pretty good to, like, get some items out of earlier. But I don't think it really matters. Lisa's last bugs. There's always too many bugs. Also, don't die now, please. That would be kind of devastating if I died now. Some speedrunner could do it. I mean, probably, yeah. Question is if it's worth it at all. Maybe, maybe not. But maybe if the game sells, like, against all odds, like, millions of copies, and people start doing, like, challenge runs of it, where they are not, like, allowed to jump or some shit. Because challenge run YouTubers are insane. That might become interesting. I mean, I would honestly, like, be quite honored if anybody even, like, cared slightly enough to try to speedrun my game when it's finished. Like, if my game ends up having a speedrun.com leaderboard, I will see that as, like, an accomplishment, right? Like, that is kind of the metric of success for me at this point. And that might change into being much higher as, like, a metric of success. But as of right now, I'm, like, making this game and I'm not expecting it to do, like, super well the way that I see it going. So if there's, like, enough of a scene that people are, like, actively, or at least semi-actively speedrunning it to the point where, like, there's a leaderboard for it with, like, more than one person on it, I think I would consider that a win. Yeah, I mean, it might actually be possible to beat this game without jumping, like, in all honesty. I don't know, but it might be. Because you do have some abilities that can kind of, like, maybe not get you height necessarily, but I do have abilities programmed in that have some, like, jump-like mechanics to them. So if you can abuse those abilities a little bit in a clever way, you might be able to, like, get pretty far, to be honest. That said, there definitely, like, are areas of the game that are designed to be platforming challenges, so those might prove to be a bit of a challenge, but I guess, like, that's the point of a challenge run, isn't it? To be challenging, so... Yeah, so being able to just spam magic, turns out, quite powerful. Right? Because I can... There we go. You have a revenue goal for this game? I mean, not directly, no. It's kind of complicated, because this game also drives my YouTube channel, right? In a lot of ways, because a lot of the content that I end up making, like the mission statement kind of for like the channel is sharing like real world development experience, both in like the more devlog type things, which I do about once a month, which talk about more like abstract concepts, and then more in like actual technical tutorials as well. So like everything I do here also drives the YouTube channel. So like, do I count the money that YouTube makes me in like the revenue of the game, or not? Because that changes like drastically how much the game actually needs to sell. But the game on its own, I mean, unless I get like a super good marketing thing going, which I mean, I hope that I would, but I don't know. The sheer amount of time that I have to put in making this game, I don't think I can expect to sell enough copies to make that worth it, right? Because if you just think that through a little bit, and you don't count like YouTube related income, I need to restart the game, hold on. If you don't count like YouTube related income in all that, because to be fair, like all that YouTube content does also like take time in of itself, and even like with that time, if I convert that to an hourly wage, that still isn't like all that much. But if I pay myself like a $25 an hour like wage to make this game, by the end of having developed this game, I don't know how much time I've already put into this. Like some of it is definitely like reworking stuff and my own stupidity, but I'm gonna count it anyway, because that just happens when you're doing a big creative project. I kind of feel like by the end of this, there's probably well over like 2,500 hours of work in the game. If I had to like just guess, based on how far along we are, how much is left to go, and then adding on a percentage for unforeseen things that still have to like pop up their ugly heads with issues that need to be fixed and that kind of stuff. So you'd probably be in the like 2,500 hour range to make this single game. And if you're paying yourself, let's say 3,000, just to like round up even a little bit more and make the math easier. If you're paying yourself like $25 an hour, which isn't that low, which isn't that much for like a independent like solo person, like if you get that from like an employer, that's pretty decent in most places. For like a independent, that's generally on the lower end of things. So that means that you would need to make about $75,000 of all sales, which means I intend to sell it, I think, for either $14.99 or $19.99 in the end. Assuming that I don't like end up going with a publisher, and I like self-publish everything, and I do all my own marketing and that kind of stuff. I only need to like take off the 30% that Steam takes, and then like what's left of that needs taxes taken out of it as well, obviously. But let's just ignore the taxes for the time being. So that means in order to get to like that 75,000 figure, I would need to sell about 100,000 worth of games, which means that if I'm selling it at $20, which is the higher end of what I think is acceptable for like a solo indie game, that means that you need to sell, what's that, like 50,000? No, 5,000 units. Only 5,000 units? Is that right? Am I fucking up the math? If you need to make like 100k and you divide that by $20, you only need to sell 5,000 units. Well, that's actually achievable. Okay, so that might actually be achievable. Never mind. I thought I needed to sell 50,000 units to get to 100k in revenue. Well, again, if you make 100k, 75k you actually get out of it. And then you need to still pay taxes on it. So at the end, like, slice of another like 30-40% maybe. But yeah, like doing all that math. Yeah, selling anywhere between like 5 and 10,000 would be fantastic. That said, if I have been considering maybe like looking into if publishers would be interested in this. Because if I had some budget, right, I could also like hire some people to do the stuff that I'm just not good at myself. I need to level up some stuff before I do more combats. Like environment art, I probably could use like an artist for. I like doing the characters myself because it really like gives personality to the world. But like a lot of environment art, I probably could use like a artist for. Sound design and music, I probably could use like some amount of professional help with. And I think if I had the money to like hire those people on, the budget of the game obviously would be higher, which means that I need to sell more copies. I would need to like very quickly go into like the 20-30,000 units sold in order to make that work. But the game would also be better as a result, which makes it potentially easier to get those sales. So it's a bit of a... But if I'm working with a publisher, I also need to sell more to get my own money back for the time I put into it, because then the publisher suddenly takes a percentage as well, right? So it's a bit of a... It's a bit of a clusterfuck as to like exactly what the revenue goal for the game would be. I'm like not 100% on that. But yeah. For the next couple of months at least, it's a matter of polishing up at least a rough version of that first dungeon we just went through. And like artifying the dungeon that we're going through now and making a lookout for the next dungeon. And once that is like in place, I might start like looking more seriously into seeing if there's like publishers that are willing to like pick it up. So like fund the more full-on development of the game as well. So strength. I think I want to invest in that a little bit. And then might as well just throw some in defense if I have souls left. So hopefully that was a very roundabout, long answer to the question. Finances and math are always tricky answers to give. Not because I really care about like financial secrecy like a lot of people do, but I just... There's so many caveats to it, and like... It sounds like you'd make a lot of money if you made like that 100,000, right? But that's also like, again, 3 years, 5 years worth of work, roughly. And especially in my situation where I'm also like using all that information then to like drive the YouTube channel. It's so many things just like working in tandem with each other. I've got them all together here. This is a really good moment to spam thunder. This motherfucker has so much HP. The scaling is kind of messed up. Yeah, I think the scaling for the Reaper boss also needs to be less aggressive. Yeah, because I just like legitimately died there. So let me note that down as well. Reaper boss post scaling too much. I think it just doubles. Like it adds an extra 100% to everything instead of like the 30 to 50% that it should. So yeah, that gives me a pretty long list of things to work on over the next couple of weeks, I think. Been live for about 2 hours almost. So let's see. Is there anything that we can like super easily? Thunder deals no damage is definitely not true anymore. It might actually deal too much damage. Is there anything that's easy to fix like right now on stream? Is the question, right? The boss fight scene doesn't add the HUD back after we skip the scene. Feel like 5,000 purchases sounds easier than what might happen. Yeah, so 5,000 doesn't seem like a lot, but it's also one of those things where, like, either you sell like 20 copies or like 20,000 copies, right? Like there's like a bit of a dead zone in between like selling a certain amount, where if you sell enough, both like Steam's algorithm and just general word of mouth will spread it enough to the point where you like sell probably even more than that. And I don't really know where that dead zone exists in like Steam sales, but I kind of feel like it probably is within that like 1 to 5,000 sales type of deal, or maybe even within 1 to 10,000 sales, where you're like, if you're within there, you're just not like, well, maybe 1 to 10,000 is a little too broad, but like if you're within there, there's a good chance that you're going to get lifted out of there as well, right? But like getting into that segment where you've sold enough to the point where like people are like organically recommended it to other people as well. And this, again, the Steam algorithm is a very powerful part of this as well. Getting to that point where you get into that range where you start like generating more sales because you've sold enough is probably pretty difficult. And if you don't get to that, you probably don't get to the 5,000 sales either, yeah. And you're entirely right that that even if I say like the $20, I probably need to sell more, because not only do you have people that wait for sales, that's actually surprisingly like not that that big a deal, because the majority of the revenue for most games on Steam is made within the first like 1 or 2 months of its release. Just because of the way that like Steam promotes new games that do well. You can like generate wish lists and like get a couple of extra like cash infusions by running sales at a later date, but like most of your revenue from all the sources that I've seen still is generated still within the first like 1 or 2 months. So like people seeing your game and waiting for a sale actually largely isn't as much of an issue as you might think it is. What is probably a bigger issue is regional pricing differences. You can manually set in Steam the pricing for every region, but Steam can also do it for you. And generally, I trust Steam as a platform to do it for me, but that does mean that like a sale in Brazil is probably going to be like closer to the $2 than the $20 that I would like for it. Meaning that the average sale amount, depending on which areas in the world like my game, the average is probably going to go down even if I sell it for 20. With a combination of sales and lower pricing regions, it's probably going to go down to about like $10 to $12 per sale. Meaning that I do need to get like double that amount. So I do need to get to the 10K at that point to get to that like 75-ish thousand dollars in like revenue. But on the whole, I do think that in general, launching your game, the way you launch your game in the end is the most important from what I see other people say. Meaning that if you have a good launch, you're pretty much good to go. And if you like have enough momentum with that launch and pre-launch and like generating wish lists and that kind of stuff, and your game is good, obviously, that's the most central thing about everything. Your game needs to be good. If your game is shit, you're out of luck. So I have a real uphill battle there. With the way the game is right now anyway. But there's still an element of luck always. There's always an element of lottery, and you can like spread that risk, and you can do a lot of work to make that like lottery luck risk as like manageable and low as possible. But there's always going to be a luck of the draw to it. So yeah, I don't know. But hey, even if this game doesn't like sell super well without a publisher, like that's the thing. I kind of feel like I have some confidence in the game if I get the like extra technical help that I can afford with a publisher, and then the publisher can maybe also do a little bit of extra like marketing input. Then I kind of have confidence that this game will do well. But even if I just end up doing it 100% by myself and maybe having like a couple of people help out with some art assets and maybe like some hands in my work here and there, even if it ends up not selling super well, it'll have been worth it for me, because this is a game that I want to make, right? That's first and foremost the thing that I'm doing here. I'm making what I want to make. I'm making what I want to play. Whatever I make after this is going to be significantly different from this. I do know that. I'm learning like a lot about the things that I'm not particularly like amazingly good at. Both in what parts I'm not as good at as I would like, but also the things that I'm not good at, I'm getting better at because I'm making this game. But I can probably pretty much promise at this point that whenever this game is finished, and it's gonna be a while before this game is finished, because I still like have both YouTube and a day job as well as developing this game, and I only have like 24 hours in a day, 7 days in a week, and I also have like a life. That's a lie, not really. But whatever I make after this is probably going to lean somewhat more heavily into being a like simulation type game, which is not to say like I'm gonna make Train Simulator rip-off 2025, but it might be like a conveyor belt game. It might be like a city builder game. It might be... I've had this idea for like a kind of like a Harvest Moon. People these days would call it Stardew Valley clone. But kind of like a Harvest Moon type game that evolves in a similar way that the gameplay progression of Spore evolves. I've had that idea since I was like a little kid. So that might be what I end up making after this. Either way, what I'm going to do after this is probably going to lean more into the thing that I am like specifically good at, which is programming. And that's what this game is kind of light on in a lot of ways. Like, this game doesn't require a lot of programming. It requires a lot of scripting. It requires a lot of art. A lot of, like, sound and visuals. Which I am okay enough at, but I'm not, like, super good at. Like, programming is what comes very natural to me. But this is the type of game that I like playing. So this is the type of game that I wanted to make. And at this point, we're, like, 2 years in, and I'm probably like a third the way through development, I would assume. And if development can speed up over the next couple of years, because I can get either like funding from a publisher, or the YouTube channel can serve more as funding for me investing time into this as the channel grows, because it's been growing. The growth for the YouTube channel has been steady, slow but steady. That means that we probably don't need another 4 years to finish it, right? So if I do everything on my own, I imagine that it's going to be another 2.5 years or so of development. If I do decide to go the route of finding money to like also hire on other people, I imagine that we can finish, well, then it will actually be we. I always say we, but for the most part it's just me, right? I'm just the only one doing this. But if I can like hire on people to help with certain things, I imagine that the game is done within under 2 more years. But either way, it's not going to be like this year or next year that it's going to be finished. Anyway, I'm rambling. I found videos online about common widgets work. I mean, they're kind of... I made like a couple of videos about them. I personally don't use them myself because I just prefer to like build that functionality on my own so that I can actually like build it in the way that I want to use it. I don't know what's the right way to add a widget, stack or remove it. All I get back is input focus, and we'll get back input focus for my game. So I mean, the right way to add or remove something is a very broad question. There's no singular right way, because if there was a singular right way, there would just be one function that you could like always call, and everything would just do it for you. So there's a balancing act in like these kind of plugins where they want to do stuff for you, but they also don't want to do too much stuff for you to the point where the flexibility disappears, right? So the right way very much depends on what you're trying to do. But the video that I have on my channel about introducing the common UI plugin is probably a pretty good way to start, which is having your canvas UI widget, just holding your stack and giving that a function to add and remove to the stack. As far as your user focus goes, you probably should set up some code for every like common widget that you add and remove from the stack that has a like default. I think Common UI has something built in for when it spawns in, what should it be its default like selected element. But if not, you can just like manually set keyboard focus to a specific element as well. I feel like that's the right reason to make games. It's what I feel like AAA is lacking. And while sales are going down. Yeah, a lot of AAA games end up feeling kind of samey because they, especially over the last like 5 to 10 years, they've all kind of realized that if we just make something that feels kind of pretty and is like an open world adventure, people will just eat that the fuck up, which sometimes I do too. Again, I've been playing Cyberpunk over the past couple of months off and on. I've more or less completed 2 entire save files. And I like that. Like, Cyberpunk is an amazing game. And it's very much just an open world adventure game, right? It's just with like shooting elements in it, as opposed to like hack and slash type elements to it, which, or like Souls-like elements to it. But it kind of feels like since all the AAA games are all kind of doing that, they start feeling a bit samey. Like every AAA game needs to have the same fucking like stamina bar progression and then the same crafting system. And my game also has a crafting system in it, don't get me wrong. But it's like every AAA game is almost at this point the same game with a different skin. And that used to be the case for like individual studios. Like every Bethesda game ever is the same game. But now every game is a Bethesda game. Right? So, yeah, I do feel like indies kind of like fill a space that gamers really want there. Like even if it is an open world ish game, like you could classify Hollow Knight as open world. It's Metroidvania, but Metroidvania in a sense is a type of open world. But it's so charming and so fun to explore that it's like not that big a deal. And I personally hate Metroidvania. And I hate the Metroidvania aspects of Hollow Knight. Don't get me wrong. I'm also going to hate the Metroidvania aspects of Silksong when that comes out. But the world itself is so like charming, and the like moment-to-moment gameplay is funny enough to the point where that's like, it didn't really bother me. Yeah, sound design and art are my weaknesses too. Yeah, that kind of ends up happening a lot with the people that watch my stuff, I think. I've had some offers of people like helping me for free, and I also don't really like. On the one hand, I want to like take on help. Obviously, if people want to offer help, that would be amazing. But I also like strongly feel that people should be paid for their work, and I just cannot pay them at this point. Especially since I fully do intend to sell this game. I don't feel good about taking people's free work. Which maybe I'm a little bit too stubborn on that end, but I don't know. That's just like also kind of a principle that I don't really feel comfortable like compromising on. Like if this was just a passion project that I like didn't intend to sell, and this was like if this was like an open source project or whatever, I'm like, yeah, of course, like open source, like everybody like give me your shit. But I fully intend to like sell this. So like if I'm gonna be making money out of it, I'm not gonna feel comfortable taking people's free work to begin with. Because people, when they work for something that's gonna be sold, should be paid. Simple as that. But that also means that I've like had a couple of offers of help for free that I'm like, I appreciate it, but you probably shouldn't do that. I actually follow your video, but my issue is widgets are added to the stack, but when I close them, my look input isn't back and I can only move the mouse but can't look around. Is that because your input mode is just set to UI only? Because if you close out of like your master widget, you might need to like set your input mode on your player controller back to game only. Or it might be that the focus is not on the viewport. You might, if you like close out of the widget and just click on the screen, do you get your control back? Because sometimes that does happen. But that tends to only happen in editor anyway. Like in packaged builds, that usually isn't an issue. But it's something about like the editor not putting focus properly back into the viewport, I believe. I've had that issue as well in the past. If it's just about like your like input mode, you just need to like whenever you remove the last widget of your stack, you just need to set your UI, like your input mode, back to game only. Anyway, were we gonna do something? Oh yeah, we were. Hold on. Yeah, so we do a thing here for the HUD visibility at some point, I believe. Yeah, set HUD visibility. Just set that to, I guess, not hit testable, maybe. That should fix the issue where the HUD doesn't show up. I guess we can do it in this save. Also, let's us test the skip scene thing. And the HUD shows up after the skip scene. Fantastic. Okay, so that works. Bug fixed. Bug not fixed is the fact that this thing still does the do. But that's also super easy to fix, because what it does is when we play the scene, we enable input on this thing. We just need to disable the input on this thing when the scene is finished playing as well. So we disable the input on this again. Put that play controller in the right pin. Does Common UI auto restore your input? Again, I don't use Common UI personally because, I mean, it's cool. I really like it, but it also at like 3 different points in time corrupted some Common UI widgets in my project, which I then had to rebuild because at some point it just decided it didn't have a parent class anymore. And I didn't even like reparent to just use a widget parent class. It had a null reference for a parent class, meaning that I couldn't even open it to change its parent class to something usable again and like repair it. So those assets were just broken, just corrupted. And that happened to me like 3 times. It's been like 2 years since that happened, so that's probably fixed by now. But it kind of traumatized me a little bit. Free workers and artists, I'd be happy to give you a hand in exchange for the right post to work to my portfolio. I mean, obviously, like anybody that would help on the game would obviously be able to like post their work in their portfolio. Like that's, I've worked with clients in the past who are like, please don't add my stuff to like your showcase, and to that I say, those people can go like suck a dick. If I do work, I am then allowed to show off that work. Obviously, like if it's super sensitive work for like sensitive information, like at some point I can probably say this. I don't care. At some point I made a couple of videos for what's essentially like a workers' union for like police. Here it's been like 6-7 years since I did that, and I haven't like talked about to any of those people in that all that time, so it's probably fine. But they, I believe at the time, I didn't do like the point of contact for that, so I don't know the details. So don't take this as like gospel, but they weren't, I believe, like a huge fan of us posting that stuff on our website, which is kind of bullshit, because it wasn't even like confidential information or whatever, like internal stuff. It was literally like, I believe, like a recap video of like a protest they did or something, but they didn't want that posted on our website. Like, okay, sure. At the time we just said, okay, then we won't post that, sure. But that stuff annoys the hell out of me, because yeah, you're paying me, but I'm also like putting in that work, and part of your payment is the fact that I can show that to potential future clients. Like if everybody wants their shit to not be shown in their like in your showcase, but you also want like a portfolio to see that people provide you with, like, that doesn't make sense. So like as an answer to that, obviously like anybody who would like work in any way, shape or form on the game would be allowed to like show off their work on the game as part of like their showcase, their website, their portfolio, within reason, obviously, like not implying that you did stuff that you didn't do, but whatever. I mean, that seems reasonable, right? But that by itself shouldn't be a payment, is what I'm getting at, right? That should be like a basic right of working with somebody. I just wasted 3 years of my life on some bland as fuck corporate projects. I feel you there, man. That set my morale, and I love games in general, so it'd actually be doing me a favor if give me a project I respect. I need to figure out some way that is acceptable, because I always kind of feel icky, and I know that this might be not quite the same, but I kind of feel icky when I see like huge content creators like hosting a fan art contest effectively as a farm for arts to just like take, right? That kind of stuff. And I really don't want to be that guy. Like, as much as I think that a lot of the discourse around like AI art is like overly sensitive from a lot of artists' side, I also fully like support artists, because even though I am not like a visual artist myself, I do see myself as a like artist in the sense that I create art, and I want to support like people who do that, and I don't want to like abuse any sort of like enthusiasm or like any sort of interest into like gaining something unfairly. So that's kind of the thing. Like, I would love to like take on help that people have offered me. Like, I've had 2 or 3 offers of people like giving me a hand over the past like 2 months. One of which I still need to get back on email. Is that you, by the way? Because if you were the one to send me an email, I didn't like ignore it. I just forgot until this moment. I'm sorry about that if that was you. If that's not you, I need to respond to that email because I don't want to be a dick. But I kind of like need to figure out like how I want to deal with that, because I think that like taking on a little bit of help would be fantastic. But I also don't want to take that for granted and like use people's like time and effort into something that's gonna like make me money. But I also like have no guarantee that the game is gonna do well in any way, shape, or form. So at that point, like I don't know, that there would need to be some kind of like revenue share agreement or whatever, maybe. But that's also something that I'm slightly hesitant on doing for like a variety of reasons. So I'm kind of conflicted about the whole ID. Like I have one friend who's like, I maybe want to do some like sound design for you if you help me out with some like code stuff, maybe every now and then. Which is like just trading like labor for labor, because we are both kind of like not in a position where we can hire people for that. I'm like, okay, yeah, that kind of makes sense, but I also can't do that with like 5 different people at once, because then I don't have time to work on my own project anymore. So like this. Like either way, I'm open to like seeing if there's any like formats in which it can work if people want to help me making the game. Because I do want the game in the end also to be as good as possible. And the more people with actual like skill can like work on it, the better it's gonna be, the more chance it actually does have of like doing well, which is in the end the whole goal. But I just don't know what that would look like yet. But like, if you're like honestly interested in helping out, like do feel free to like shoot me either an email or like generally I am way better at responding on Discord than I am through email, because fuck, my email box goes crazy some days. And my Discord DMs are not that bad. So like if you're in a Discord server and you want to like shoot me a DM, and we can like see what you're like willing to do and what I can like provide in return for that. Either in whatever way, long term, short term. Again, I don't really know what I can promise and what I cannot promise, but like I'm open to the idea. I just want to do it in a way where I like feel like there is an equivalent, or at least near equivalent, like exchange happening, so that like everybody involved can be happy with the way that things are happening. And I don't become like that guy who uses their platform to just like farm poor artists. Because that happens so much and I hate when that happens. So I mean, it's not even necessarily that it's awkward. It's just I have a pretty high tolerance to awkwardness, to be honest with you. Which, sure. Again, it's more so that I want to like actively avoid even like the implication, the idea of any sort of like artist abuse, because that's just something that like irks me the wrong way when I see it happen elsewhere. So I feel like that's definitely like also a me issue, right? That's definitely like, let's do a little therapy session here. This stream is not brought to you by BetterHelp. That's definitely also like partly a me issue. And when I say partly, I mean mostly. Where I'm probably like overcorrecting in the direction of like not wanting to take on help that people offer. Because I don't want to like take advantage of people. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just rambling. Again, it's been a long day. My brain is just like generating words, and my mouth is just saying them at this point. And there's like no filter in there that's like, hey, maybe put your like thoughts into it like a tidy order before like blabbing them out into the internet, which is always a good like state of mind to be in, to be live on the internet. Anyway, so yeah, we had issues that we were fixing. Hold on, we were doing a thing. I think we fixed the second issue as well, right? It only took half an hour to fix two like super tiny issues, but I don't know. I kind of feel like having this like kind of talk and this kind of like discussion is like a huge part of the reason that live streaming is like actually like a cool thing to do, right? So I get distracted on live streams, but that's kind of by design, you could argue. Let's see, where did we have these? Player input disabled on end cutscene. Boss fight, pause, causes skip scene to appear. Yes. Boss fight doesn't add HUD back. We fixed that as well. Good. Oh no, don't feel bad about hijacking the stream with this discussion. Again, this is the kind of thing that it's fun to live stream for, isn't it? If I want to be productive, I just like take a day where I can like muster up the focus to like work for an entire day, and I just like fucking go, right? Like if I can focus myself into a hyper focus state, I can just like work for 10 hours and actually am productive. Like I'm not live streaming with the illusion of actually being productive. For the most part, this is just a way to like kind of chill, do a little bit of work, and like in real time, like either answer questions or like talk about this type of stuff. Because again, I feel like even this is like part of the mission statement of like developing this game and showing all the progression. Like part of that progression is shown in the technical tutorials that I make. Part of that progression is more of the like abstract stuff that I talk about in these devlogs, like the one that went up on Monday about stealing shit, which, yeah, I got like one comment that stealing isn't okay, and I was like, yeah, you didn't watch past the first 5 seconds of the video, dude. Which is fair, because the thumbnails are really clickbaity. I expected that to happen, like 100%. But like the thumbnails, they're working. Like the views are doing quite well on that video so far. We've 9 new subscribers off of it so far, and about 1,000 views in the first, what is it? 1 day and 4 hours. So that's pretty good for my standards. Like that's more abstract stuff that I talk about where I'm like, okay, these are the more abstract, like, creative lessons that I take out of both my background in, like, film, but also just, like, the actual process of making this game specifically. And I think that there's, like, live stream stuff where we can just, like, sit down and, like, talk about this. And sometimes I get distracted and I ramble on for, like, 30 minutes, even though somebody asked, like, a 2-word question. Like, that's part of that too. We can delay the game indefinitely if we keep sending messages. I mean, yeah, kind of. Maybe. Feels like the thing in class where you ask the high school teacher how he's doing to distract him to teach. But this is the opposite, right? Because you do want me to finish the game, presumably, at some point. Like, I would hope that at some point you'd want to play the game. Which, if you do want to play the game, by the way, I'm doing all this to work toward a new like test build run in the next couple of months at some point. I was kind of hoping to have that like by the end of this month, but life kind of gets in the way, and I've been a little bit behind on all that I wanted to do. But if you do want to play the game in like the current state, again, Discord is the easiest way to let me know, because I just have a role in my Discord with a specific channel for like beta testers. So if anybody's like looking at this game and they're like, I want to get my hands on this, it looks shit, but I want to help it look less shit in like a playtesting sense. Discord, you can just like drop me a @ in the general chat. Or a DM if you want to, but I don't know if DMs work. I think I have DMs turned off, so you need to add me as a friend first, because way too many people enter the Discord and then DM me tutorial questions where I'm like, that's what the server is for, man. Because other people might also be able to help you. So just like drop a @ me in the general chat, and I'll give you the role, and you can like get access to the test build and that kind of stuff, and I'll get you a Steam key for the test build and all that good jazz. Because I always need more testers as well. Still, like, a game dev is such a well-known principle as a game dev. I don't see when anyone could take that literally. I mean, yeah, that's just a thing with creative endeavors in general, right? Because creativity is just stealing in the right ways. And I think that when we say stealing, we just mean inspiration, right? But I think a major part, and maybe the video should have been a little bit more about this, but I think a major part of like growing as a creative, at some point you recognize and accept the fact that you're influenced by other media, and that you don't have to reinvent the wheel about everything at all times. You can look at some other media, think, I like this bit about that. What are the reasons that I like it? Okay, these are the reasons that I like it. I like this other bit about this other media. What are the reasons that I like this, and how can I marry those together? Because even if you're not like consciously doing that, that is what your like subconscious is doing at all times if you're being creative. It's just if you're aware of that and you accept that that is what your brain is doing, you can more like actively steer your decision making in that. And that in the end is what creativity is. So that's probably like more what the video should have been about, instead of like actively making it about my HP and my MP system. To be fair, but I also kind of wanted it just to be a devlog to update like the state of the game, because those videos are also supposed to be that. But a video titled and thumbnailed "My new HP system" is gonna like work not that well. That's gonna perform like shit, and that's just kind of like the game you have to play as being a content creator as well, which sometimes kind of sucks. Like, I don't like making clickbaity thumbnails. It's kind of like a fun game in certain ways, but I also kind of feel shitty and icky when I do it. But that's the game you have to play. Anyway, hope you're having a good time. I mean, I have a time, certainly. I had a question about streaming. I want to stream my game dev process of my horror game. you have any advice? I plan on using OBS. So yeah, I also use OBS. As far as advice goes, I mean, I don't know. At the beginning, for a good long while, most likely, you're going to be streaming to nobody. I mean, I effectively stream to like nobody comparatively to like the subscribers that I have. Like I have 27,000 subscribers. I get like 150,000 monthly views on this channel. And if I go over to my streaming dashboard, I think there's probably like 10 people watching this now. I don't have my dashboard up, to be honest. There's 5 people watching this right now, right? The peak concurrent is probably somewhere in the 10 to 12 range. It usually is. So that's not that much for how much reach the channel technically has, right? There's some people that'll watch the VODs. If you're a VOD watcher and you made it like 2.5 hours in, drop a comment, say hello. But the performance of it and like the amount of people that are going to be watching is probably going to be fairly low. So this is kind of the paradox of streaming in general. Is one of the amazing things about live streaming is the interaction that you can have with other people in real time. But in order to get those people to be there to interact with, you need to be at least like informative or entertaining without them being there. Like I don't know when it was, but at some point I saw a clip of like Northern Lion. I don't know if there's 7 people by the way now. It's going up. At some point I saw a clip of like Northern Lion. Assuming that most people here are at least vaguely aware of him. What was I talking about again? I'm reading chat as well. Oh yeah, at some point he like turned his chat to emote only because they were being annoying or something, or he didn't want to get like spoiled on something or whatever. And he realized like I've been streaming for so long that I'm kind of worried about like not being able to like lean on chat, and then he turned it to emote only, and it's like, bitch, I've made like 5,000 Binding of Isaac videos all on my own. I can like be entertaining without chat as well. But that's kind of the thing. Like you need to be able to like create that content without leaning on the chat before there's a chat that shows up to like tune into that, and then you can start leaning on chat, and then you can get like stuff that I'm doing right now, which is not being productive but just like rambling. So that's a thing to like take into account, is that you're going to be streaming to nobody for like quite a while, from most likely. To be clear, I want to stream so that I can focus on developing the game. Not really interested in getting 10k audience or anything. I get easily distracted. I want to force my focus to force myself on development. Yeah, okay. So you can put the words into the right order for that sentence yourself. Because my brain is shutting down and my dyslexia is kind of acting up. So that's on me, not on you. Yeah, I kind of get that, but at the same time, if I'm anything to go by, I am effectively unable to like get into a flow state with hyperfocus while I'm streaming. Like streaming is a moment for me to just like kind of dick about, because there's also people chatting. And if you're like actually like super hyper focused on the development, you will not be interacting with like the chat, and you're gonna probably like not have that audience, because live streaming without chat interaction is like kind of pointless in a lot of ways, I would say. And I don't know how most of the audience feels about that, obviously, but as a creator, that is how I feel. I don't personally watch a lot of live content, so I don't feel like qualified to speak from that perspective. But yeah, from my own creative perspective, live streaming only distracts me more, personally. Is there a YouTube thing in particular, the low stream view sub ratio, or is the same with Twitch now as well? I don't know about Twitch, because Twitch... I'm not even streaming on Twitch today. I entirely forgot that as a thing that I was supposed to do. getting viewers on Twitch is like fucking impossible, man. I don't know how people do it. It's just, I don't know. But I do think that it's pretty common on YouTube, unless you're specifically like a streamer on YouTube, to have that ratio be pretty low. I know one of the guys that I watch pretty regular content of is Prismatica Dev, and I think he has like 3 times my subscriber count, and his live streams do about like 3 to 4 times my view count as well, I think. So let's see if he's live right now. Usually he's live around the same time that I am. But right now it doesn't seem like he is. Yeah, his VODs do get a fair amount more views, but he also has like 3.5 times my amount of subscribers. But I think like whenever I see him, his viewership also is like between like 50 and 70, so his ratio is a little bit better than mine. But he also streams a lot more than me, I think, so, and longer as well. So I think that's, for people that use live streaming as a secondary thing, I think that ratio is pretty standard. I think I might be on the low end of that ratio still. Because in general, my subscriber to engagement ratio is pretty low. Because I get found by a lot of people for like singular tutorials that then subscribe and then don't like interact with most of my content, which is fair. So like the fact that I have like 27,000 subs, I get about 700 to like 800 subs a month. Like most of my recent tutorials are in the like 300 to 500 view range, right? Got this one tutorial that has like 3,000 views, but I get like actual like subscriber to viewer ratios of like 1 or 2%, which is actually pretty terrible. But that's kind of just what happens, I guess, when you make such broad range of tutorials. So that's kind of just like part of the way that this niche works, I think, maybe. Because if somebody subscribes because they likes my tutorial on one thing and then they see I'm doing a turn-based RPG series, like obviously they're not going to give a fuck, which I can't blame them about. I get hyper-focused when I have an audience. I mean, that does... if that's the case for you, that I mean, that helps. But I also do think that like being hyper-focused on whatever you're doing for development at the same time might be detrimental to having an audience in the first place. But even if you can just like get a handful of people that like don't mind just lurking and maybe saying something only every now and then, like that can be ideal for you, right? Like even right now we're down to 7, but again we're like going up and down between like 5, well 4 right now actually, and like 12 viewers a year, and there's like 2 or 3 people watching in chat. So like most people don't talk in the chat, and that's fine. If you, just like the feeling of people watching you helps you like lock in. Oh, we're up to 6. Hello. Like that can work well enough, but if your hyperfocus potentially also like limits your chatting interaction, there might be like a negative feedback loop there for like building an audience to begin with. Got that impression too. It looks insanely hard to get started, actually, to get enough of an audience to attract other viewers. I mean, if we're talking about Twitch, yeah. I mean, Twitch is kind of a rich get richer kind of deal with the way that their pages work, right? Because when you go to a category, if you're already looking for a different streamer to begin with, which most people just aren't, you're gonna see the most viewed streams. So, like, all the people that are hanging down at the bottom of the page with like 1 or 2 viewers are going to stay there because they're not going to get any new fucking viewers. Like Twitch is terrible for discoverability. I think Twitch is slightly better monetarily speaking though, because it has more of a culture of like throwing gift subs and that kind of stuff. If we're like really talking inside baseball there, but to even get there to the point where people are doing that, like, there's fucking no shot, man. If I'm live streaming anyway, I might as well also stream to Twitch. Again, I entirely just forgot to like enable it today. But Twitch is just a dud. Like, my average view count on Twitch is like 1.2. And I'm pretty sure that 1 is the stream that happens in my own dashboard. So that means that my actual view count is 0.2 on average on Twitch, which is just pathetic. I have social anxiety and ADHD. When I'm alone, I keep getting distracted by everything. When I have an audience, due to anxiety, I hyper-focus at the task at hand. I mean, that makes sense. So anyway, we were bug fixing. Yeah, let's take a look at the mana leveling issue real quick, and I think that's going to be the last bug that we fix for today as well, because my brain is like actively like eating itself at this point. Like, I feel my brain cells dying as I try to like keep up my dialogue, which is fine. I don't have that many of them anyway, so like a few less doesn't hurt. Speaking of ADHD, I already forgot what we were going to do. Oh, the level up thing. Yeah, I remember. It's the stat page. I called that right. I think Twitch does require consistent streaming as compared to YouTube. Yeah, if I want to like really like make it on Twitch, I'd probably like need to stream for like 6 hours a day every day, and then I'd probably like start building some more stuff. But I just cannot do that because streaming again for me is creates a lack of productivity because I get very easily distracted by other things, which is again kind of the point of like how I like to live stream, because I like that interaction element. And to a certain extent, I'm actually kind of happy that I don't have like hundreds of people watching and a chat that goes by super quickly, because the moment I can't read chats anymore, like what do I even do? Maybe at that point I do become more productive because I start ignoring chat. So who knows? Maybe that actually ends up working out well for me. But then we set up things like text-to-speech donations and stuff through Twitch, and then I get distracted by those. But at least I'm making money off of that then. But that's like, I'm making like $2 off of me going on a 20-minute tangent. So that's probably not very productive either. Yeah. Now, it just comes down to live streaming is not a particularly... Oh yeah, that'll do it. Live streaming is just not a particular like game dev productive kind of thing to do, but it's productive in other ways, right? Because it helps. Again, it's part of. I don't want to call it like the content strategy because that sounds like very clinical, but it's part of like the mission statement and the content that I'm creating on this channel, right? It's giving a real-time view into like what's happening with the game and like what's happening in my mind surrounding the game, but also surrounding the channel itself, I suppose. Spaghetti blueprints. I mean, it's definitely not my worst blueprint. I'll show you probably the worst blueprint in the game in a moment. Yeah, so that's fixed. So yeah, the issue there was very simply that at some points I was trying to recreate the Kingdom Hearts charge bar a little bit more accurately, because the way it works now actually works differently from how it works in Kingdom Hearts. But this is one of those things where, talking about stealing stuff, right? I tried to steal the Kingdom Hearts 1 HP charge system, and then when I actually looked back at my footage of the Kingdom Hearts 1 system while I was editing the video, I was like, the way I described it actually is not how Kingdom Hearts 1 works at all. So I'm going to try to recreate that accurately. But as I was trying to recreate it accurately, I was like, I actually don't know if I like that. I think I liked the way I thought it worked more, so I'm probably just going to stick with that. But this was a leftover thing about that attempt of making it more like the original Kingdom Hearts 1. Whereas this now, I think, just works the way that I want it to work. So that's another bug squashed. Fantastic. Also, welcome to Cave Dweller. Just want to say thanks a bunch for all the tutorials. Brand new, trying to learn game development. Hope things go well for you. I mean, same to you. If you ever have any troubles with anything, there's always a link to the Discord where either me or other helpful people can take a look at issues that you might run into, or like give advice. So, or just like commenting on YouTube videos. I try to answer almost all comments that I get, which is sometimes like quite a lot. Like sometimes I have days where I get like 2 comments, and then sometimes I have a day where I like get 10 of them. And 10 doesn't sound like a lot, but when those 10 comments are all like technical questions, that quickly does become a lot. What are you doing? Well, what I'm doing is getting distracted mostly. But I've been playtesting my game today, figuring out a whole bunch of bugging issues, and I fixed a bunch of them. This is not all today, by the way. This is just generally my bug tracker that I use. But now we fixed one more issue, so that's kind of good. Yeah, so the learned recipes not saving would be easy to fix, but we're going to change that system anyway, so there's no use in actually fixing that. I guess the retriggerable death animations might be easily fixable as well. Should definitely use comments to organize. Yeah, okay, so that's what I was going to do. Like, this is, like, not even that bad, because, like, I can just, like, group these with comments if I wanted to, but these are so, like... There's only really 1 or 2 nodes, for the most part, in each event, and the event itself describes what it does. So, like, this is not really that big a deal. Like, the most noodly it gets is here, where I use the ability system component across like 2 different like lines of nodes. So I think this is pretty like decent. But I do have like a thing like this probably could do with a little bit more commenting. But when we get to like this monstrosity, like this is hell. Like this is actually just straight up fucked. Like this is not okay. This is really bad. This needs commenting, but this is also a system that I made like fucking over a year ago. Probably like a year and a half ago at this point. And I'm kind of, every time I need to open this blueprint to like change something, I am terrified. Because this works. And I want it to keep working, so I don't fucking touch it. I touched it a little bit a few weeks ago when this is my level loading system, by the way, for anybody like questioning what the fuck is going on here. So the thing is that this is a system that has like a couple of different entry points, right? Because I can load a level from starting a new game. I can load a level from like loading a save file. I can load a level from going from one level to another level. I have a function exposed that can explicitly load a level through any like arbitrary point in the game if I need to, which I do need to like 1 or 2 times throughout the entire game, but it needs to be a possibility. So it has like 3 or 4 different entry points for this system. And this like unloads the previous level that you were in, loads the new level, keeps track of the levels that are loaded. It adds in dropped experience, because I do have that Souls-like mechanic. Because when you die, it keeps track of the place where you died and which level you died. And when you get back to that level, it spawns in like an experience orb for you to pick up in that location where you died. So it keeps track of all that. It does all that, right? And recently I added in the capability of fast traveling from any arbitrary level to any other arbitrary level, even if they're not directly linked to each other, which ended up being much more of a pain than I thought it was going to be. So yeah, I kind of broke the system open a little bit again a couple of weeks ago, and that reminded me of why I don't touch this, because it is a mess. But it is a mess that works, so I keep my hands off of it. I could turn a bunch of this stuff into functions. As you can see, a lot of this is bound through event dispatches, and I know that you can make like events over functions, like you can just like use the create event node, right? I like having the visual like spaghetti things, hooking like event dispatches up to the actual events that they are linked up to, just so that I can like visually easily follow. Like, okay, so on load gain we do like this instead of having to tab over into a different tab that has that function. Like specifically that part of the noodly mess I do appreciate in this case. The fact that all these red lines I know are like events that are like linked to a delegate. It looks like a mess, and there's definitely like a lot of this stuff could do with being at least like collapse all the functionality into a function so that it's just one function call, so that I can make use of like local variables would help. But we also like this stuff just for instance can't be a function because it has like these latent nodes, and latent nodes need to be in the event graph. So everything like down here, like everything that comes off of level load, so that is like all of this, cannot be collapsed into a function. This needs to exist in the event graph already. There's a bunch of things up here that could probably like just have, like I could, everything that's in here, I could collapse into a function. And I just have this one event, just call that function. That probably would help a lot. I'll give you that. But I personally do like having like the actual like event nodes directly being able to hook into the event dispatches to have like easily followable logic of like what points to what at what time. But it does make a little bit of a mess. Also, yeah, that's definitely like not the worst spaghetti that I have ever seen. Like, it can get a lot worse, but this is probably the worst it gets in my project at this point. There's a couple of other. To be fair, actually, my player character at this point is pretty bad as well. Just like the event graph needs a lot of cleaning up here. Like this is a bit of a mess because I just keep adding like random shit. Like this is just all debug stuff. I can get rid of that for now. Actually, I want to keep the fast travel unlocks. Some of this definitely needs to be cleaned up a little bit. This is also pretty bad. But again, there's a lot of like floating, like a couple of nodes attached to like an event, which is like it looks a little messy, but it's not difficult to read, right? Because you can just look here. Okay, this is attack. What does attack do? It sets a gameplay event to the actor with the tag attack, and then it does a press input ID. That's all it does. Like from this distance, obviously you can't see that, but it's not like difficult to read. Like when we get to this, yeah, this probably should be cleaned up a little bit because this is instantiating a bunch of widgets that just kind of exist in the background and get added and removed as we go. Like this is a print string that I probably don't need anymore, which means that I don't need like any of this anymore either. The worst I've seen is a dev who didn't know what an array is. I've seen that as well. That is, I don't know how you function, but sure. Dude made 44 different object reference variables, adding rotation to them on tick. Oh my god. Copy pastes the whole thing for each ref. What the fuck, man? Yeah, so that is... Don't do that. Definitely don't do that. Why do I have this as 500 minus 200? What the fuck did I just... This is just 500 minus 200 in a math node. What the fuck? Just divide this by 300, you idiot. Yeah, there should probably be somewhat more commenting. I'll like admit that, but this is mostly just like one-off, like pretty simple scripting stuff. Like this is also a remnant of a print string that I'm no longer using, obviously. So we can get rid of that. Like once I get rid of like a bunch of like debugging stuff, like it's really all not that bad. Probably could like make just a comment section here for all the input actions though. It helps that most of the code for this guy exists in this massive C++ file. Well, this is not a CPP file. Hold on. No. This massive C++ file, which actually is not that massive. It's like 1,000 lines or something, 900 something lines. And this stuff actually like is commented, obviously. Because when you're like writing, well, it could be commented a little bit better in some places, I'll admit. But like when writing some code, it's much more like in the workflow to first like write pseudocode, right, and then actually write the actual lines of code under it. Combined with the fact that like sometimes with like simple boilerplate code, the way that I do code is just like writing a comment and then letting Copilot fill it in, which is nice because then you immediately have the comment and then the code that does that stuff directly under it. It's just, and Copilot will also add in comments of its own because of that. And sometimes when I'm like, I can't be bothered fucking commenting this, I do just throw a function into ChatGPT and tell it to comment it, and then just paste it back in after making sure it didn't change the code. Which also, like, I do tend to do that, yeah. But yeah, most of the actual, like, functionality of my player exists in, like, this massive file. So everything in here is just, like, minor scripting more than like actual like deep programming, so it's not that like not that bad. But most of my other files that grow pretty big end up being like actually commented. Like this, for instance, right? This is just my sword attack ability. It's still kind of like noodly, but at least it's like commented, right? Aside from this stuff up here. Probably should color code this as being a different color, but I'm pretty bad at being consistent with color schemes, so I'm not the best blueprint kind of guy with this kind of stuff, especially since, like, for my tutorial stuff, obviously, I do go in as much as possible and, like, make things look neat and, like, add in, like, comments and that kind of stuff. For the turn-based RPG, I kind of, like, didn't do that too well, I'll be honest, but for most of my other stuff, like, my entire like, inventory course thing, I went through that entire project, and that's a pretty big project, and like added reroute notes and like comments and everything through that entire project for like the Patreon download, because at that point, like, I'm giving out the project to other people who need to be able to like read it. But that's also like programming the entire system in Blueprint, which is also kind of a pain in and of itself. Like that actual like programming stuff generally with my own stuff happens in C++. So when I work in Blueprint, I am just like less inclined to comment stuff because it's generally pretty linear, straightforward scripting and not like super all over the place, like intricate systems. I had a game dev co who would argue with me that C# is multiple times faster than C++. I mean, it's just straight up not. I mean, we can be real fast about that. It just straight up isn't. Undisputed Bash programming language. You can, from a usability perspective, you could argue that it is one of the best programming languages. From a speed perspective, it just literally isn't. It just, like, factually isn't. Unless you write, like, really shitty C++, I guess. If you, like, are really bad at programming and you create, like, memory leaks everywhere you go in C++, I do believe that C# would be faster, yeah. But that's a skill issue. That's not a... that's not a language issue. That's a him issue. Or her issue. And them issue. But yeah, if we just look at, like... This is the commenting that I have on, like, the C++ side of my, like, turn-based RPG. You see that this is, like, much more finely commented. Specifically, this was a pain in the ass to do because we're looping over, like, a two-dimensional array with priority over either the X or the Y. This function took me, like, way too long to try to make with the help of AI. And at some point I was like, it's fucking 1 a.m. I've been trying to make ChatGPT understand what I want. I'm gonna go to bed, and tomorrow I just have a working brain and I'll do it my fucking self. And then I did it within like 30 minutes. So sometimes also I just don't over rely on AI because they are stupid. But like part of the commenting here is also like leftovers from what ChatGPT did, to be fair. As you can see here, this is much more my own code. You can kind of see where ChatGPT helped me more and less, actually, based on the commenting. You can also see that here I use Gemini, because Gemini comments so much. Holy shit, Gemini's code generation has so much more commenting than ChatGPT. It's actually kind of insane. But yeah, I could be better with commenting stuff, is the general lesson that we take out of this. I also do think that like commenting stuff is good, obviously, and getting into a habit of like pseudo programming your code and then actually writing the code into it so that you have well commented code is important. On the other hand, I also think that like code that in and of itself is readable is also important. Like a while ago we had like a fun little like thing in the Discord about like readable or like compacted code, right? And I had this one function. I don't remember what it was. I don't remember the exact function that, but it was, I think, something on the like ability for the turn-based RPG. So let me see if I can find that turn-based ability. Like I think it was something on here. Maybe I can still find it. Yeah, like these functions, right? These functions, the select up down implementations. I think it was. No, it was something else. Either way, it was something where I needed to loop over a certain thing and then like call a function on that with like a callback or whatever, blah 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 blah. Bunch of stuff. Which ended up being like 10 lines of code or something like that in a readable way. Which in the end I managed to compact down to a single line of code. And not just a line of code where I'm like, this is one line of code because I never pressed the enter button. So yeah, this is one line of code, right? No, there's a semicolon there. There's 2 lines of code. Like I managed to actually squeeze that entire function down into one line of code. It was just a fucking mess to read. Like it was not human readable. Like it genuinely looked like it was decompiled code. not quite. It probably was a little bit more human readable than actual decompiled code. But I think writing code that is just like reasonably human readable doesn't necessarily like excuse poor commenting, but it does kind of make up for it in certain ways. If your code is just like readable, like you can read what this does. Matter of fact, even if you don't know C++, like how many people here watching are like blueprint people that don't use C++ that can kind of get the point of what these functions do? Because I would be willing to bet after the first shock of, oh, C++ is scary, if you actually sit down and look at what this code says, even without the comments, which there's like these comments back here, but even without it being properly commented, like this code, it's pretty simple code, to be fair, is kind of self-explanatory. It kind of shows like what it does. Like we get a coordinate, we get the target coordinate, and we set it to the target coordinate of like the owning component for this thing. Then we get whatever the new coordinate is, which we get out of the loop over x array with rep, which we give in some data for, and then we return that new coordinate. Now, loop over that array, that function itself is a headache pressed between curly brackets. But even this, like if you just actually let's start like reading through this, you probably could figure out what it does. But here, because it is such a long function, to be fair, this function is probably actually too long to be a single function to begin with. You could probably figure it out fairly well. But here the comments do really help because it is such a long function. But the fact that there's a long function in and of itself is probably a solvable issue. Probably could like compact each one of these for loops into their own function. So like make this a function that's just called inside here, and then make the whole for loop a function, and then the whole function would be like this long, which is much less intimidating and like confusing to read. Anyway. To be honest, with comments, it would still be easier to understand. I mean, yeah, sure. I can see that. I just don't think that like commenting everything is like that important. Like to like a obsessive degree. Again, with a function like this, which is, again, the issue with this function is mostly that the function as a function itself is just too long. But with a function like this, it definitely helps. But we have like this Gemini style commenting that I got at some point, right? Like this is overkill. Like this is just like the commenting does more actual like there's more commenting than there's code, which is insane, right? I understand that this line of code might seem a little gibberish. Like this is a little borderline. I'll give you that. Like return coord a.y is less than coord b.y, or coord a.y is equal to coord b.y, and coord a is less than coord b.x. Like this is this is a messy line. So having something explaining what this does, or just writing it out into like multiple different bools and then like cross-referencing those, would probably like this is not a very readable line in and of itself. But this is like we could very easily like compact this down into a single line of like I don't even sort based on the y coordinate first, up, down, then left. Adjust the sorting logic if y is up, then like this also doesn't help that much. It should probably be a singular line that says something like at this point, like my brain is not really in the capability of breaking down what this should say, if I'm being honest with you. But it probably should be a singular line that says something like sort prioritizing lower y and higher x or whatever. Something like that is what this does, I think. And that probably should also like be its own subfunction that it can just call, because right now it is, well, I mean it's technically, because we're doing it twice here, so probably should make that into a function that just both lambdas can call. Anyway, that's not like super important right now. I'll look at some variable references on screen and my brain is trying to figure out where they are used. I mean, you can just find that though, right? Like within Blueprint, within C++ too, but you should be able to just find that. Like if you have, well, not across the entire project maybe. Well, still, no, I think you should be. Like if we, fucking a reference that gets used a lot. It finds it by name though, so it might be not super reliable. But if I like look at everywhere in the project that uses my ability system component for the player, it's also going to return everything that's called ability system, which means it's also going to return everything for the enemy ability system probably. Oh, but you can also find them by class member. So you can find like everything in your project that references this like specific reference, right? And your IDE, if you use C++, should have something similar. So yeah, this is all the places in my project where I reference this specific class's ability system, which is a handy little thing to be able to find. Usually I comment in human language, something like this changes the day and night cycle, or don't touch this as being added elsewhere via ref. Yeah. I had one where I put a link to a comment, link to a YouTube video, explain how it works. That's actually not a bad idea. I'm also like thoroughly confused as to why your name doesn't have like a ranking next to it, because YouTube has this new like top fans functionality. Oh, because you're not in top 3, you need to get good. You're not chatting enough. You're 4th place. Okay. Only the top 3 actually get like little icons next to them. It's a fun little like incentive for people to like engage with the chat, because like we have this there's no like vulnerable information, right? No. You have this this little thing here where we have like the number 1, 2, and 3, and like interacting, I suppose, gives experience. I wonder if getting a membership gives experience as well. I don't think so, because we talked quite like extensively, and you have about the same as the person below and everybody else below. I don't know what exactly drives that experience, but it's a fun little thing that YouTube has introduced apparently. How long did it take you to learn all of this? I mean, when did I start game dev? At this point, that's got to be like 4 or 5 years ago. But that's kind of a complicated thing, because that's when I like really started diving into game development, which is one thing. But when I was much younger, I did also like do some like light game development with things like Game Maker, and I did a little bit of Java programming for like Minecraft modding. Nothing like too extensive or too like deep, but that did give me like the fundamentals of like scripting and object-oriented programming when I was like 12. So like it's kind of difficult to say, because when I picked up like Unreal Engine and like Unity Engine a few years ago for the first time, I already like knew the basics of like how to like talk to a PC, how to like communicate to a computer, right? And that's a pretty like major like step and a pretty major understanding to like have and gain. So that kind of makes it difficult, because it's probably been about 4 or 5 years since I like actually started with Unreal. But if you also take that time into account, it gets really muddy for how long that has been. But if I look at if I look at when I like started my first game development like devlog thing for like a game that I'm no longer working on, because that was just a practice project really. That was about October of 2021. And that was probably about 6 months after I'd started fucking around with Unreal. So early 2021 is when I got started. We're halfway through 2025. So it's been like, what is that, 4.5 years or so. Again, with a little bit of background in like previous like visual scripting, Java programming, a little bit of Lua programming. So if you take that into account as well, like add on another like year or maybe 2 years. But that wasn't like super in-depth and super complex or anything. But again, it did help with like building a basic understanding of how to like tell a computer to do a thing. But all the much deeper understanding and like all of my art related stuff and that kind of thing also came through those last like 4 or 5 years. But that's also partly with a background in having like over 10 years of experience in like video and film production, which there's actually a surprising amount of overlap with like After Effects to a bunch of things in like Unreal. More than you would think initially anyway. Like obviously in After Effects you're not programming, but in After Effects you can like write simple script expressions to like drive semi-procedural like values for your animations and that kind of stuff. And that's stuff that I also like often like did a lot of. So yeah, that's a very long answer. I am very good at giving long answers to seemingly simple questions, which I don't know if that's a good thing because it gives an in-depth answer, or if that gives you a very useless nothing answer. I hope it is a good answer though. Graham popped up before I joined the channel. Yeah, I think so too. Anyway, at this point I am literally doing nothing, and I think in the past hour I've like added 3 nodes. So it's been well over 3 hours. I think we're going to like call it for today. It's been a good stream. I honestly like didn't really feel like starting the stream very much today, if I'm being like super honest with you. Because I'm just super tired. I don't know if you can tell. You probably can, because when I'm tired I get very rambly and very like even less productive. But those do end up often being very fun streams as well. So I don't know. Maybe it's a good thing. But I figure, you know, man, I didn't stream like the entirety of last week. I really can't skip just because I don't feel like it today. And it's a good thing because it ended up being a good stream. So yeah, I'll be back on Thursday, and I don't know what we'll be doing on Thursday. We might be finishing off the anime that I have been working on over the last month or so. We need to build this AI and like add in a couple of extra animations for him as well. But that all should fit within one stream, I think, because it should be fairly straightforward. And then after that, I think it's time to go back to block out time for the next dungeon, maybe. actually a good thing, appreciative of the context. That's always what I hope, because, like, again, my brain just, like, starts generating words. My brain is really just an LLM. Just starts generating words, and sometimes they make sense. But yeah, I do think that, like, especially with, like, if you're doing a bunch of game development on your own, you actually learn a bunch of skills that are very transferable to, like, other things as well. Like, I found that as I started, like, scripting or coding or whatever you want to call that, materials, as I started writing shaders, that's actually what's going on. I also wanted to show you the, I don't know if the people I was talking to are still here, but I wanted to show the cell shader, didn't I? So this is the cell shader that I use. But as I started using, like, this stuff more, I understood compositing on, like, a deeper level as well, which really helped me with, like, doing After Effects stuff too, because I actually started to, like, understand what different blend modes do in things like Photoshop and After Effects. And I understood how you can, like, use, like, that an image isn't just an image, but an image is like a stream of data that you can use in ways aside from just what it visually shows, right? So you can use a noise texture not just as a texture that is noisy, but also as something like maybe a like a magnitude sampling for driving a different effect. So you can have a noise texture driving the intensity of a glow effect, for instance, or the intensity of, like, an offset, which creates, like, a wobbly effect, that kind of stuff. Like, understanding the way images can be used as just, like, a stream of data, that really, for me, came through actually, like, scripting out, or, like, programming, again, there's debate on what you would call it, but making shaders. And that ended up really helping me out with, like, my compositing stuff. And then at some point I moved over from using After Effects to using Fusion in DaVinci Resolve, which is also node-based, which is now a lot more similar to actually just, like, compositing as writing shaders, because I'm using an actual, like, node graph to do my compositing and animation with now. So that's, like, quite interesting. But yeah, so this is the cell shader. So what this does is this compresses the colors, both in luminance and in hue value. So I think this is the luminance compression. So it compresses it into, like, ideally these bands. It's a little, like, noisy on the edges sometimes, but it essentially just, like, forces it to only have a set amount of luminance values that it's allowed to do. So it's effectively just clamping it. I know that I say effectively a lot now, but again, I'm tired. That stuff starts happening. It just clamps it either up or down to fall within certain, like, luminous bands. And it has a little bit of smooth stepping to it, so that there's a little bit of softness to those edges as well. You can take that out and make it very harsh, but that makes the edges more noisy as well. And it kind of does the same thing with different hues. So as I, like, decrease this value, I believe, you will start noticing that it becomes a lot more green, because it just doesn't have the amount of hues to display everything in, like, quite the same way. So that's what that does. Let me set that back to 24 before I forget, otherwise everything is gonna freak the fuck out. So, like, pure red is kind of difficult to show with this effect on. And then this is the line filter. So this is the like, loop that I needed to write. And again, I didn't come up with this. I just followed this through a tutorial. Like, I fundamentally kind of understand what is going on, but I couldn't come up with this myself. But yeah, this is and the wonderful thing about this is I'll try to actually find the tutorial that I followed for this and put it in the chat so that people who are interested can follow it. It's called PBR cell shading. Let me try and find it.
this video of an...
Yeah, so his results definitely also look better than mine still, but like the amazing video. It's not really like a step-by-step tutorial, so that's why it took me a little bit to get working with. But the wonderful thing about this is that it doesn't just like take the luminance values and like does a bunch of like hard-coded if nodes, and just like uses that to mask like the base color channel. So this cell shader still works with emitted light as well. As you can see, like this emitted light is being cell shaded as well. It will work with metallic things as well. There's an issue with like the base color method of things where everything that has a metallic map just becomes black in your cell shader. This works with that as well. So yeah, this is amazing. It still uses the same like colored lights, but just like quantizes it into bands. Yeah, that guy is like an actual like tech wizard. I fucking love his stuff. I understand about like 60% of it at most, but I do love it. It is a really, really good resource. So yeah, I'm very glad that one day I came across this. I tried to buy the stuff outright off of his Gumroad, but it didn't take like PayPal or something. I didn't have a credit card for it. So I was forced to just like scavenge across a couple of different videos to reconstruct it myself, which in the end, the same thing that I always say is like the people that give me money to like get access to my Patreon to get my project files, I'm appreciative of, but you're also like shooting yourself in the foot, because unless you're using it to like actively study with, you're probably creating less of an understanding of the stuff that you're using than if you were to step-by-step recreate it yourself. But I know sometimes you just want to like get stuff and move on. And sometimes you actually do want to use it as like a learning resource as well, right? And that's like primarily what I intend it for. But again, if you just like want to take the stuff and run with it, that's fine too, of course. But in the end, oh my god, I'm playing with a spoon here because, again, my ADHD just cannot keep my hands idle. So yeah, my brain just needed to buffer there for a moment. I'm sorry. I'm kind of glad that I couldn't buy it, because that way, like, I now do understand everything that is happening in here. And if at any point in the future I do need to like write one of these custom nodes, because I do need to like loop over something or whatever, I actually now like properly understand how like these inputs like work and how all that like functions. I hadn't ever done that before. So that was like part of the thing that was like causing me trouble, is that this didn't work properly, and I don't remember exactly the reasons that it didn't work properly, but for some reason it wasn't really like taking these inputs and using them properly. I don't remember the exact issues. I think I was trying to declare them as variables up here, but you don't have to do that or something like that. Either way, doesn't really matter. Yeah. So that's been the stream for today. Have a good one. I'll be back on Thursday. See ya.